On today's episode of Time About the Movies, we're taking a look at the first three films of March 2012, including Illumination's entry into the Dr. Seuss family, with taking the classic story of the Lorax and adapting it to the big screen, which on paper should work, but yeah, if you've seen some other videos on this channel, you know that I'm not the biggest fan of this movie, and I'll talk more about that in just a little bit here. But we also will talk about Project X, another found footage movie that's not a horror film, but takes it outside of that genre and does something unique and different with it. It's produced by the guys who did The Hangover. We'll take a look at that. And we'll take a look at Tim and Eric's awesome show coming to the big screen as Tim and Eric's $1 billion movie. It's March 2nd, 2012. This is Time About the Movies.
They used to grow all around here.
From the creators of Despicable Me,
ow,
comes the world of Dr. Seuss as you've never seen it before. Wow. Zac Efron, Taylor Swift, Betty White, Danny DeVito.
Who invited the giant furry peanut?
you wouldn't hit a woman.
That's a woman.
Dr. Seuss's The Lorax.
In Real D and IMAX 3D.
Rated PG.
How to contemplate this movie. How do I sum up my thoughts on it? These, I literally just bought these this week from Hobby Lobby. I wasn't even going to use them for anything, but considering it is a Dr. Seuss movie, why not have some Grinch gloves on? I mean, these are actually really nice. I got these for $7, but if you want to see that, you can check out the video in the corner from when I went to Cranberry this past weekend. But anyway, welcome to Time About the Movies. Today we are taking a look at the three films that make up March 2nd, 2012. And before we get to that, I want to bring up something that I should have brought up on the last episode. Last week, the last episode we did was February 24, 2012, which means that we have now officially entered 1 decade left of this show for me to do. I started this back on February 24th of 2022, and the plan was specifically to just do every movie from the time I was born to the time I started the show. So we are not too far away from this coming to a close. We still have a long way to go. We still got 10 years worth of films to look at, but I did the math, and if we continue on this pace, the schedule I have already set up, we should be completely done with the show by the end of 2026, right as the new year of 2027 is about to begin. So, fingers crossed we get to that point. But anyway, let's talk about the Lorax. And why not? We'll keep the gloves on for this, because what the heck. A 12-year-old boy, voiced by Zac Efron, searches for the one thing that will enable him to win the affection of the girl of his dreams, voiced by Taylor Swift. You know, this is back before she became oversaturated garbage, but to find it, he must discover the story of the Lorax, voiced by Danny DeVito, the grumpy yet charming character who fights to protect the world because of his world being told by the Onceler, played by Ed Helms. It's done by the same people who did Despicable Me and Hobbit. This actually was their first fully CG animated film since Despicable Me, so you know, there's a lot of pressure on them to deliver a similar hit to what they did with Despicable Me, because Hop wasn't the biggest overall hit overall. It was a hit in general, but nowhere near as big as Despicable Me was the summer before it. But this one definitely was a bigger hit than Hop was. And you know, I mean, these movies aren't great. Despicable Me and Hop are not great films overall, but they do have their own unique charms that make them both worth watching in the long run. I mean, they are still fun films overall. And unfortunately, this same cannot be said for the Lorax. I did a video not too long ago talking about my 30 worst movies of all time, and this was tied with the Cat in the Hat for the worst for one of those movies. I think it was 25. I think I had that. But I have the video too. If you want to go check it out, there's a link in the corner. But here's the biggest problem with the movie. First off, the Lorax is hardly in the movie, and I hate when the title character doesn't get the main focus of the film's attention. The Lorax is only in half of the movie. It's like doing that Tom and Jerry movie from the 90s and forcing both Tom and Jerry down to supporting roles in their own movie. It just doesn't work. Secondly, this has the exact same problem that Horton Hears a Who had, where it doesn't know when to take it slow and settle down. It needs to be loud and vibrant, so the kids will not. It's because kids will not understand what's going on if there isn't gigantic loud noises coming in the background. Like, this thing is way too obnoxious, it's way too loud, and it's just... Stuff happens in here that makes no sense whatsoever. They have a funeral for a tree. The Onceler opens up a bag of marshmallows and the animals start dancing around in slow motion because it's a 2000s kids movie and we gotta have all these people, and we gotta have these... a dancing number because the kids need to be distracted by the fact that they're seeing a less than spectacular movie. I mean, they never give a clear explanation of why the Onceler decides to turn evil and does it through a pretty bad song overall. Like, I know a lot of people like this movie and like the Onceler in particular, but I'm sorry. This is not a well-written character whatsoever. Even the voice actors aren't that great. Zac Efron and Taylor Swift aren't really stretching these acting chops that they have. I mean, Zac Efron's being Zac Efron, Taylor Swift's just being Taylor Swift, Rob Riggle's playing the standard jackass, and Betty White's being Betty White because we were on this Betty White resurgence back in the day. And I love Betty White, but you can't just hire Betty White to just be Betty White. You gotta have her something, give her something to do. That's why Hot in Cleveland was so successful after that show went premiere. But there's nothing in there for this movie to work with them at all. And the biggest problem of it all is that there's just way too many pop cultural references in this movie. This has got to be stop becoming a thing. They got disco music playing for no reason whatsoever, coming from a plastic tree. Like, again, it just feels like you're sitting there just watching this pander to the lowest common denominator. And on top of that, the movie is extremely against what the whole story of the Lorax was trying to be. If you were around when the movie was being promoted, they were promoting this car that was supposed to be this environmentally friendly car when, yeah, it's completely going against everything that the movie's story was supposed to be setting up. Like, it makes no sense whatsoever why we're going down this pathway. Dr. Seuss films should be timeless films, like Pixar does their films. There are books that we've grown up with kids. I mean, and the appeal of the kids these days have gone way downhill, let's be honest, but you gotta stop throwing in these pop culture references and this stuff. Like, it's getting ridiculous. There are some good things about the movie. There are good things about it. I think the animation overall is really good. Like, this is what I think of when I think of a Dr. Seuss movie. Like, you know, after the disappointment of The Cat in the Hat, you know, theater got, you know, Dr. Seuss's wife basically said, do not make another live-action remake of one of my husband's stories. Go animation-wise. And Horton Hears Who had a lot of great animation to it. This has good animation to it, too, but the difference is between this and Horton Hears Who. Horton Hears Who was at least trying to do something story-wise, but no, this thing just goes all over the map. But the animation overall is really good. Danny DeVito and Ed Helms are really the two people in here that are giving it their all. Danny DeVito fits well as the Lorax in here. Ed Helms, I think, is doing a good job as the Onceler, doing two different versions of a character, like the Onceler's regular self and the older, scruffier version of him. They are the strongest performances of the movie. The film is also really short, too. Like, it's a movie that's about it says 95 minutes for the runtime here, but I swear, it feels like it was less than that, about like 75 minutes when I first saw it the first time. It's just like, because I think I got out of there at like the time of the theater when I went to see this was like 1:30, and I got out of there around 3:15. It's just like that was not an hour and a half long. I mean, that did not feel like that. Like, the film is really short, and it just is, you know, it's a good runtime. It's paced well enough, but I just wish there was a much better story to work with here, and not just predictable characters, lackluster material in terms of what they add in here. It just didn't work. It's a movie that I really wanted to like, and I just found nothing of value to it whatsoever. I think they were on the right path, though. The animation was good. Some of the voice acting from the leads are very good, specifically Danny DeVito and Ed Helms, but they needed that spark to really give us something unique and fun to watch, and you know, I think they found it a couple years later with The Grinch. I know a lot of people don't like the 2018 Grinch movie, and and there are definitely some things about it I don't like about it per se compared to the Jim Carrey version, but that one at least was working a whole lot better than this movie did. I thought that film was much more enjoyable than this one was. It was more creative in that one, so I'll talk more about that when we get to 2018, but that movie is definitely better than this right here. So The Lorax, yeah, not a good film. One of the worst movies I've ever seen. Just a major disappointment on so many levels. So let me go ahead and get these gloves off here, and then we can go ahead and talk about our next movie, which is Project X.
Hi, we're hosting a little birthday party.
Yeah.
Am I invited? Yeah, you can come by. Possibly be a little bit of party-related noise. Muchas gracias por su consideration. What if my parents see it? Nobody's gonna see it but us.
So you know this high school party in Pasadena. Have you seen the footage?
Project X, rated R, starts March 2nd.
Oh, hey, Jimmy Kimmel. How fitting, yes, that today ABC announced that they are pulling the suspension that he had indefinitely for Jimmy Kimmel, who's coming back tomorrow on the show, which you know, that whole thing was just such a BS move by them trying to appease the current administration. But I touched on that on the Reviewing Network Live, so go check that out on the other channel. It's up there right now. But anyway, this isn't about Jimmy Kimmel. This is about Project X. The plot follows three boys: Thomas, played by Thomas Mann; Costa, played by Oliver Cooper; and JV, played by Jonathan Daniel Brown. Three friends who plan to gain popularity by throwing a party, a plan which quickly escalates out of control. And this is a found footage movie, and that means that, you know, this is a film that, kind of like with Chronicle this month before, it's a movie that is definitely taking the found footage format that had been popular with the horror films for the last couple of years and applying it to other forms of genres. Like they're doing it with superhero movies last month with Chronicle, and now we have one with a comedy. And I like to think of this as the Ed, and Eddie movie, because really, this movie literally feels like what Todd Phillips would make if he was to make a raunchier, more adult-friendly Ed, and Eddie movie, because you can look at all three of these guys, and for some reason, I think of Ed, and Eddie. I think it's JV as Ed, Thomas as Double D, and Costa as Eddie. I mean, maybe that's just me thinking it, but that's what I thought of when I watched this for the first time. I was just like, man, this feels like the Ed, and Eddie movie in live-action form. Like, I don't know. I mean, check it out and see if you agree with me. But the movie itself, overall, I think it's a very interesting film. And it does have a lot of really solid, funny moments. The first half of the movie, it's essentially a gross-out comedy in the vein of the American Pie movies. But then the second half, particularly in the last 20 minutes, this party goes insane, over the top. The main guys from The Hangover will look at this party and go like, God damn, man, like, simmer down. Like, I mean, we partied in Vegas and Bangkok, and this is just too much for us. Like, it's that insane. Fires start breaking out. You just look at this and go like, holy crap, this is intense. The found footage is actually used really well here. They do have a decent explanation to why there's so much found footage of this. And it's a movie where the over-the-top comedy really doesn't happen until the last 20 minutes. And then, but the ramp-up to it is really good. It's well done. Like, it starts off as a simple high school party, and then it just eventually, as the night goes on, gets crazier and crazier and crazier. This isn't a breakthrough comedy by any means necessary, but it does use the found footage element for good. And sadly, I don't think a lot of other movies use this for other genres. I think they went strictly back to going to the horror movie cesspool, which, I mean, I would have liked to see more movies like this in the found footage style. I think there's so much more you can do with that in general, but I think this was the last one, unfortunately. And I do say unfortunately because this one really works. It's very funny. It's very well done. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed Project X a lot. So with all that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie that we have here, and that is Tim and Eric's $1 billion movie. I sincerely apologize for making you having to sit that. That was torture to record. Like, I had never seen that trailer before, and yeah. Needless to say, if you are not a fan of Tim and Eric's style of comedy, you are really not going to like this movie. I mean, this is the second Adult Swim movie that has come out in the last couple of years. The first one being an Aqua Teen Hunger Force colon movie film for theaters, which is definitely a very much a niche film. And as somebody who likes Aqua Teen Hunger Force, I enjoyed it. I was never really a fan of Tim and Eric's comedy whatsoever. Like, I really looked at it as just kind of like, yeah, this isn't for me. I think the funniest thing I've ever seen from them was when, you know, Tim and Eric are about to go on a vacation, and, you know, I think it's Tim waiting for Eric to come by, and he's coming by with a van. He's saying like, "Hey, over here," and then it just cuts to this Eric walking out of there, and then the car hits him, and like his head just pops off. Like, that's funny, and that's the only time I think I've ever laughed at Tim and Eric. Yeah, but this wasn't for me. They play fictionalized versions of themselves, and they're forced to reopen an abandoned mall to pay back a wasted $1 billion loan. And you have a cast that also includes Zach Galifianakis, Will Forte, John C. Reilly, Ray Wise, Twink Kaplan, Robert Loggia, Jeff Goldblum, Bob Odenkirk, Will Forte. A lot of really good, funny people in this movie. A lot of people that really could elevate a film and save it for what it was trying to, and save a film in general. But even in a movie like this, even them being in here isn't enough to save it. This is literally a film that, like, this is a movie that you have to seriously be a fan of these two to really appreciate it. And I'm just not one of those people overall. Like, I really do feel like that. I really just felt like this movie was not for me, and it's just not as funny as you think it is. Like, in little increments, in little bits, yeah, it's hilarious. But in terms of a film that is just being like, you know, a feature-length film, you really need to know and appreciate the comedy stylings of these two to really enjoy the film. And even then, I don't think a lot of people on the comedy style that like Tim and Eric really like this movie a lot. You don't really hear a lot of people talk about it, but I mean, I don't know. Just my personal opinion, it wasn't working for me. Like I said, I've only laughed at them once, but other than that, this movie really isn't worth it in the long run. Like, I feel like there's so many better things you could be doing than watching this, and the plot really doesn't make a whole lot of sense in general, but just, I mean, again, I like absurdist black comedy, but this just didn't do it for me. If someone like me is saying that I like this, then there's clearly a problem here that we have to deal with here, but yeah, Tim and Eric's $1 billion movie, not for me, maybe for the fans, and I don't think even the fans themselves will probably appreciate this, so take that for what you will. And thus we come to the conclusion of another episode of Time About the Movies. Next time we meet, we will take a look at Disney's latest big-budget sci-fi film, John Carter, directed by Andrew Stanton, making his live-action feature film debut starring Taylor Kitsch in what was supposed to be a big year for him. But needless to say, that didn't work out here. You know, when you go to Mars, apparently it's not going to be box office success. It's mostly box office poison. I'll explain why, but we'll also see if the movie actually is that bad. I don't think it really is, but we'll touch more on that tomorrow on the show. But we'll also take a look at Elizabeth Olsen in one of her first big leading roles in a movie, the horror film Silent House. Eddie Murphy, you know, he dropped out of hosting the Oscars, and Paramount basically said, okay, motherfucker, we're going to get revenge by releasing one of your terrible movies with 1,000 words. We also have the star-studded Friends with Kids, and we also have salmon fishing in the Yemen. So 5 films to take a look at next time around. We'll touch on all those movies coming up tomorrow on the show, so be on the lookout for that. With all that said, though, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, do me the honor and go ahead and hit that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification button. And also don't forget to check out our playlist, and don't forget to check out the last episode we did. So with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.